So in this sales call, I'm actually talking to a contractor who we've done a previous job for with a special exterior cladding product. And the thing about it was when we first did it, we didn't really know the pricings of the product. And so we were a little underpriced, not a little, we were really underpriced. And so the hard part about this conversation was that I had to bring him up over 25% on the initial price he paid because of the mispricing. And so it wasn't the easiest conversation, but as you can see, we managed to get that up. And yeah, I just want to upload it so that you guys can see the type of conversations that you have to have with contractors. Now, there are a few things here. One, I really wanted to make it clear to him that he shouldn't be looking at a subcontractor's numbers if they're bringing the value that he's looking to have, right? Number two, he himself raised his price up to where we needed to be. And so I didn't have to come back and tell him a pricing. We didn't really get into pricing. It was more making sure that he knew the value we brought. And if he didn't value that, he could go ahead and take on his project elsewhere. And so a few of the things that I was looking for was seeing, does he have more work, right? For us to come down 8% and meet him where he wants to be. Does he value us? And would he rather just do this himself and do it in-house, which he actually voices but doesn't want it. So I hope you guys can take a little bit of learnings from this and enjoy.
Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, what's going on?
Hey, I want to kind of, I don't say get on the same page here, but I don't want you guys to feel like I was trying to lowball you. I was kind of get my thought process on where my head's at and what I'm trying to do and, where I need to be. And, I'm open if I need to come up a little bit, but I didn't realize that was that drastic of a difference, obviously. And then you said you were at like 8 or 9% on the last job. So I was kind of looking at it, from the side of, being able to knock the two houses out, have everything already set up, have the guys already there, it's the same color, similar stuff, so that, I was looking at that as hopefully saving some time on the labor side. And then, obviously looking at your own overall adjustment. So, just want to try to get on the same page there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And like, just to kind of just be a little more clear on where my father is on it, is just, we have a bunch of, like, we're almost already booking out that week that I told you on that, leading into the next one. So what he's saying is, like, no one else is really, trying to haggle us as much on that. Not saying that it's a bad thing on your end. I completely understand, and you got to be within your range, and that makes sense. And he's like, there's no point in wasting time there, as if we're gonna just keep at it. He just wants to kind of just, this is where it's at, and run with it. But it's his way of operating, and so I've had that conversation.
If I came up to 50.
Yeah, I had that conversation with him, and I was having that conversation with him, but he wants to come in and sit and just look at the numbers, right? Because he's mostly on the field. So I told him the same thing. I said, because if you come up to 50, we were looking at not a full 14%, but you're looking at around about an 8%, which I felt is a little more reasonable.
Right, that should put you at 20%.
Right.
Which I think is very fair.
On 20%, what do you mean?
Well, if you were at 9% on the last jobs, and then you increase this $7 a square foot on this job, okay, so you gave me a 25% increase.
Right.
Right. So if you gave me a 25% increase and you guys made 9% on the last job, that means you're trying to make 34%, which I don't think is fair.
Well, see, now if I...
Does that make sense?
No, I get you. I get you, Jeff.
You see where my head's at? So, I was looking at it as, okay, well, 20% margins, I think, is very good in this business, especially on a job with materials as expensive as that is. I think 20% is very fair. Do you disagree on that?
Highly.
Okay.
Highly, because, and I could be very, I've been transparent with you since the beginning. On these higher end materials, we're looking at 45+% because of the exclusivity of the materials. And even on our basic stucco and hardy jobs, we're running 40% plus net, because that's why we go to higher end clients, right? Less work, super slow, and that's just where we like to be. And the other thing is, Jeff, and this is completely on the side of it, it's like, from the years that my dad's been in the business, now the 4th year that we're running on it, I've noticed, like, the contract, like, I'm not asking you what you're making on the back end at the end of this $1 million home, if it is $1 million. You know what I mean? And so that is where I think my dad gets a little bit of a sour taste in his mouth. It's like, yo, we're running our business and we know our value, right?
I mean, I'm definitely not making 35, 40%, 45% on the back end of it, and I'm holding the risk for a year on the entire project. So it's a little bit different than a sub coming in, and I'm not downplaying a sub coming in because it takes everyone to build the house, but there's no way in hell that I'm making 35, 40%. I may be making half of that if I'm lucky. So all these little things obviously add up. And, I want to use this product on the bigger 22 townhome project, on the 4 townhome project, and the 6 townhome project. But, when someone's coming in, making 40, 50%, I mean, that's just crazy. I might as well do it in-house.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
From my side. But, I'm also looking at, I kind of budgeted these numbers similar to from our last conversation. You told me that you would need to make adjustments on the Gray Street houses. So here now I am, we already kind of talked on a tentative date, and here I am now going to be ready for you guys in a couple weeks, and I'm getting jacked up, another, you guys jacked me up 25%. I mean, I think that's a little unfair on my side.
Yeah, I mean,
we just did a project with the same materials, and now I give you 2 more houses, and now I get jacked up 25% on cost.
Yeah, I mean, and that's valid to be unfair. And then, from our side, it's just the fact that we ate completely everything over there, right? We didn't make profit. I mean, very little. You're still when you add in travel, trip costs, and freight that we had to pay in for all that. I mean, we really didn't make anything, right? So I mean, I guess it's justified on both ends.
Okay, well, that's different because when I look at profit, I include all of that in. So if you're not including in so you're talking gross profit, not net profit. Then that's 2 completely different things. I look at it as if you're telling me that you're making 40% on somebody on something and you charged $100,000 for it, that means you put $40,000 in your bank account after you paid everything out.
Yeah, we never I mean, I never told you this is our net or this is our profit, but we still didn't make anything on net on the last project. That's what I'm saying. So you can justify it's unfair for you, but I told you very clearly this: we got to be higher on this because we're not making anything net.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is why I wanted to have this conversation, because now it's going to put me in a bind too of now having to go try to find another contractor that I can trust to come in there, and that's why I'm trying not to have to do that and be fair, and us come to an agreement where you're not jumping me up 25%, but come to an agreement so we can at least get this job done.
Yeah, and I come back to the same thing, Jeff. Like I gave you the ability. Like if you want to, like a lot of contractors will then say, "Hey, I get it. That's your price you're running with. That's too steep for me." You can manage getting the product in, and you can buy it yourself, and then we would only charge you the labor only. But I understand that a lot of contractors don't want to take on that extra, headache or job, and so we got to get recompensated for that too, because it's not easy dealing with these Agipur guys and any of those guys in any given case.
Okay, so I mean, is you and your dad going to look at these numbers to see exactly where it is? I mean, me coming up to $50,000, I think that's me coming up another 6%, 7%.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not going to work?
Yeah.
Is that something you could look at?
I mean, that's something that I've been trying to shoot for before we even had this conversation, because I mean, think about where it puts me. It puts me like I have to have the same conversation I'm having with you with my dad. So I get both of these conversations, which, to be honest, I mean, they're not the best ones to have, right? I can sense you getting a little angry. I kind of got to get you to see the perspective. I got to get him to see the perspective. I'm like that middleman. So I've always been shooting for this, for that in the first kind of thing. But I have to bring some things up to him and let him see the pros. Like, hey, Jeff, at the end of the day, man, I like working with you. I think you're a very straightforward guy, and it's very nice jobs to work with. And if you have future jobs, it's like, yo, look, we're not trying to beat him up either, right? And he's gonna give long-term kind of relationship. And so I got
to streamline all this.
Yeah, and so I have to, you got to understand me too with my dad. He's an older guy. I gotta, you know how they are, different, hard-headed, and so let me find my way into it. But I can do that work for us as long as I have your commitment that, hey, we'll be considered for the other ones. Like, I have no problem with that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, I looked at this project originally as being 4 houses. That's why I built 4 similar houses. So that there would be cost breaks given 4 houses. These aren't little 1,000 square foot. I know you guys do big jobs, but I committed to 4 houses with you guys from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You came to me and said, I can't do this price on the other 2 houses. Okay. And I said, I'm willing to work with you. And I already came up some, and now I'm trying to come up a little bit more. And I'm asking for you guys to work with me a little bit here, because I did look at these projects as being done, all four of them, and kind of that commitment together. And I get things change. Things get realized along the way. It's construction. So I'm trying to work with you. I just need, you guys to work a little bit with me.
100%. Yeah, no, let me do that work. Then let me do the grunt work of having talk with him and then getting to you. And then, I can commit to having a final answer to you by tomorrow, right? Because he's going to have a long day today. So let me do that work, Jeff. And then, let me take care of that.
Fair enough.
Sounds good?
Appreciate you, man.
All right, bro. That's it. That was not an easy conversation because, Joe, the first job we did with him, I'm not lying to the guy. Like, we literally didn't make a single dollar, right? The materials alone were like 18 grand. Our labor on that ended up being like almost 8 grand. And yeah, I told him, yo, I'm gonna have to need to make money on this next one. And so my father has a sour taste in his mouth because he felt we weren't valued by him. And then when I gave him my price, I told him this is where we have to be. He told me he wanted like almost a 15% deduction. And my dad was like, fuck that guy. He's a headache. He is a little bit of a headache, but he is a good client. And so when I'm in the sales position role, I need to make sure that he understands we need to be valued, which I did because I can sense his emotions start to spike up and he gets mad and he wants to tell me numbers, and I can talk numbers too. Right? No one's talking net profits. We're talking gross profits. If I talk net profits, it's going to be even worse. It's going to be even easier to explain that we didn't make any money. Anyways, I slowly have to transition him from him looking at me as the bad guy to looking at my father as the bad guy so that he can sense like, all right, let me be the middleman. So then you kind of transition into like bad cop, good cop role. And that always helps, right? So he already said in the conversation, like he's willing to come up like another 8 grand to 50. And I think being in that 50 with the volume that he says he's bringing in with townhomes and all this other stuff is fair. And so now my job is to communicate that to my dad, which honestly, that's the easiest part. My dad isn't somebody that's hard-headed. I paint him to be a bigger of a dick than he thinks for the same reason. I mean, at the end of the day, this is sales, right? And you have to force that value onto your contractor. So I'm glad that I was able to be live on this because I'm going to clip all this and put it on my YouTube channel. I think that's a really great call. And yeah, now I can just really clarify the numbers and see where we are at 50,000 for these 2 homes, which I think are going to be more than enough. Our labor is actually going to go down a little bit, so it should work. It should work.